Alright, so to kick things off with the drop, I've decided to start with the bass. As always, it's just easiest to get that foundation laid down and then move on with everything else. So we're going to start with this preset here called Anthem from Main Stage Volume 1. And so on the MIDI here, we're just playing the first beat. So this is the MIDI for the bits in between. And we're going to kick things off with this preset called Attacker. Next up, we're using this preset called Love. It's got a bit of like a ticky sort of attack to it, so you can really get the sound punching through in the mix. And then we're using Blue Guard, which is no surprise because it's just such a sick sound. And then finally we're using Crispy and Slappy, which again is a really solid preset for just adding more texture and grit to the whole sound. So in the second half of the bass line MIDI, we've got these little reverby bass stabs. So what I've done is layered a couple of synths and pretty much made them almost 100% wet. So you just get like a background stabby effect rather than it being in your face in the mix. So it's sitting behind the bass essentially. Within the actual plugin itself, I've just turned the mix up to 97%, so basically fully wet. And then we have this one called Psy Bounce, which is from Car Music Volume 2, which is adding a bit more of like a gritty future house kind of vibe to it. So finally I wanted to accentuate that, and I've added this preset called Effeminator, which is just again adding more FM harmonics to the sound and helping to get closer to the original. And I've also double layered it, so we've got 2 octaves, just because I felt like it helped to recreate the original. So here's what the processing looks like for the bass. We've got some really, really subtle reverb, which is almost just putting it in a space rather than making it a really obvious reverb. And then we're running that through some BX Digital, again, just to give a bit more width on the top mids. And then we've got some compression as well. So I'm gonna now move on to the drums, and I've taken this kick here. Super tight kick from the main stage pack, and it just works perfectly with the bass line on this. So we're now going to throw in a clap. So we're now going to bring in the synth from the verses, and we're going to change up the MIDI a little bit more, which is why I've not just copy and pasted it over. So as you can see here, we've got like a different second half. I have no idea what the chord name is for that, but this is the MIDI if you want to copy it. So the next sound we're going to take a look at is this really small womp sound which comes in just before the second half of the drops, where we've got currently no sound. So it's a really small womp, and I've shaped it a little bit in the LFO here so you get more of like an attack, like the pitch kind of goes up a bit, exactly how we wanted it for this song. So it kind of flows into the next part really nicely. So I've gone and added some hi-hats in here now as well. Just a simple closed hi-hat. So on the processing for these drums, I'm keeping things dead simple, just a bit of CLA to glue it all together. So next up, I'm going to throw in some exhausts and just get some more energy going at the start so you get more of an impact. So we're going to accentuate this with some crashes as well to really get the energy going, and then we've also got some noise exhausts on the second half where there's little gaps, just because that's what I heard in the original. And sometimes it could be really nice as well to just chuck in like an impact that's kind of percussive like this one, and that just kind of fills in the higher end of the spectrum. And then finally we've got the string again, which is coming back just for the second half of the drops. So when the hats are introduced, you've got the full energy, you've got the strings, you've got loads more impact. And yeah, it just really helps to tie in the whole track together. It's really subtle in the mix, but it works perfectly. Alright, so we're going to go and take a listen now to the whole thing overall, to get the build that we just did in the last episode, as well as the drop we've just done. So we haven't listened to any of these together yet, but let's go and see what this sounds like all together.
Make my soul complete, the rapture takes
Alright, so that was my remake of Rapture. I hope you guys enjoyed this one and the new format that we're trying to do here where we just do 2 parts. I feel like it makes more sense because you get more of an idea of how the whole song's made rather than just the drops. So if you've got any specific song suggestions or in the style tracks, let us know down below. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll catch you guys in the next ones.